All right, thanks for coming here. Just please take a seat, make yourself at home. I think we've already done much, so we're all good to do. But I think that's a good little segue, ending on sustainability with the airlines and moving into sustainability with our sustainability expert. So I'll let you just do an introduction in a second. I just wanted to let everyone know. With South Pole, FCM has been on a bit of a journey with South Pole over the last couple of years. We actually went to market over 2 years ago, just before COVID hit, to look to someone where we could offset our own travel. We're a travel company, we do a lot of business travel, we're on the road a lot, and we made a decision to offset. So we went through this process in RFP, South Pole came up on top. So we've actually been working with South Pole for a couple of years, offsetting our business travel. There hasn't been a lot of business travel over the last couple of years, to be fair, but it's been a really interesting road and a really educational road for myself. So with that, I'll say, welcome, Brayden. And so you're in charge of digital climate solutions. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So within South Pole, there's a lot of practices. So digital climate solutions goes into how we can help corporates to engage our consumers in terms of providing insights to carbon emissions and an opportunity for them to do offsets on any consumer touch points that we want to have.
Fantastic, thank you. And for anyone that might not have heard of South Pole or don't know what a South Pole is, would you mind just giving them a little bit of a background to the company and what you guys do?
So South Pole is a global climate solutions provider. We develop and implement emission reduction projects, and we also provide strategies for corporates to turn climate action into opportunities for a lot of opportunities for businesses and governments. So in essence, we are an end-to-end provider for climate solutions, and we generally work with customers and corporates to along their climate journey by allowing them to understand their footprint, setting their science-based targets, roadmaps, as well as financing climate projects. And we also work with the communications to communicate the sustainability journey to our stakeholders.
Okay, excellent. That's really good. So. What we wanted to just talk about next was, I guess, the incredible increase in conversations about sustainability. And I think there was quite an interesting report that South Pole did in partnership with the Carbon Disclosure Project, or CDP, if everyone's familiar with that. Which is a non-profit international operation that runs the world's environmental disclosure. In essence. So one thing is, there's been a lot of conversations about sustainability, but that report showed that only 8% actually have commitment to net zero targets. Can you share some more findings from that report?
So South Pole collaborated with CDP to launch a press release, and part of the findings was that across Asia, there were about 4,000 companies that started the climate journey by disclosure and committing to targets. While this is an increase of 30% from the year before, we're only seeing about 8% of companies committing to a net zero target. And actually this represents that there's a lot to be done within APAC. And as you can see, that there are a lot of areas within APAC that are affected by climate change right now. And that's why we are actually working very hard with the organizations to get them on board this sustainable journey. So, in fact, the other findings that we found was there's an increase in demand in disclosure as well as climate action solutions. And at the same time, sustainability as a topic has been a top agenda for APAC business leaders around different industries as well. So the last finding that of course from the report was the main focus for there's actually some areas of focus that APAC organizations can do more with. So for example, measuring climate risk, measuring the footprint for the whole entire operations, setting science-based targets as well, and also providing a action plan to decarbonize your organization. So I think that was the main findings from the report. And then of course, this report is actually on our website, and if you're keen, you can actually go up to download and have a look at it.
That's a fantastic idea, and I think we all need to educate ourselves as much as we can, because there's no escaping this topic. It's always there in the top few objectives in travel programs where I'm talking to travel managers and procurement managers around the globe. And you make a really good point. I think the point on there's a difference between, I think there was probably a period of denial that we didn't really have to do much about offsetting. As an account manager, I would just send a report once a quarter and say, there you go, you've got a report, that'll do. And then we went from that to real acceptance of what's going on. And then I think what I've seen in the last couple of years are a lot of claims and pledges. But now it's time for action. And I think Flight Centre and its journey as well. When you get to the point of actually committing to science-based targets, there's a lot to it, isn't there? There's a lot that you have to actually measure. It has to be auditable. It can't just be a claim. There's a lot to it.
So we follow a very strict methodology. So every project that we have developed follows a transparent and of course it has to be authentic and it's additional. So carbon in the atmosphere needs to be removed. And it needs to create an impact to the environment. So that's the work on that. Definitely, when we make certain claims, it has to be backed by science and backed by methodologies that are recognized by international standards.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. I think the next point I wanted to chat about was, I guess you work with a range of companies every day. About sustainability solutions. There's a lot of different things that people are talking about. Can you share some of the top trends or focus areas, just so better equip us in our sort of future thinking here from who you work with?
So one of the key trends that we're seeing, especially from the digital climate solutions perspective, are that actually consumers are now demanding that brands and corporations be sustainable. So based on the consumer study, recently, for example, 6 in 10 consumers are willing to change their shopping habits to reduce the environmental impact. And the same proportion of consumers as well are willing to pay a premium for brands that are actually environmentally responsible. So we also see that trend. We also see a trend within South Pole's digital climate solutions, whereby there are more and more companies that are coming towards to us to leverage on our digital platforms to provide insights to consumers, to allow them to know about their emissions, for them to make more sustainable choices, and also the opportunity to do offsets during the transaction. So all in all, I think for the companies, right, this allows the companies to also bring the topic of sustainability along with them in a customer journey. And we see that when coupled with a broader climate strategy from organizations, it provides a very strong message to the consumers that they are seeing that corporates are taking meaningful action to decarbonize, and they want to be part of this journey as well.
Okay, great. And if we think about the ESG framework, the environmental, social, governmental framework, I think that probably drives a lot of the conversations we have with our customers. Just to start with, what's a sort of simple framework? What would you say if that's kind of the standard approach? Could you share kind of let's just say top 3 best practices in building a sustainable commitment or culture within a company? Because I think a lot of the times there's a bigger change that most people anticipate. So if you have any advice for how to do that?
From South Pole's perspective, I work with many customers. We tend to see that sustainability, when it is a agenda-driven from the top, into all permeates into all business activities and into all stakeholders. So from the top level, it's senior management to employees and customers, it has to drive a very strong message and builds a very strong sustainable culture. So secondly, We also see that companies meet on the sustainable journey by committing, by understanding their footprint, setting science-based targets, and having a roadmap to decarbonize. Creates this very strong framework that allows them to engage with their stakeholders and drive a very positive ESG agenda within the organization. And I think lastly, I think to Brian's point within SQ as well, what he mentioned about communication. So we also advocate that having a very transparent and open communication with all your various stakeholders allows basically best practices, sharing of best practices and learnings. And this fosters trust within organization and stakeholders. And that also drives a very strong message and culture within the organization.
Okay, excellent. So, I mean, I know there's always, probably evolves in a lot of companies like this, you get certain people that are interested and try to make a bit of noise and drive all that stuff, and there's probably a bit of a grassroots approach to businesses, but in your experience, you need to also have that top-down sort of,
Nice and big, man.
Excellent. Okay, and I mean, it can be quite a controversial topic as well in sustainability. So, if a company tells you that sustainability is just a fad, like what do you have to say about that?
So this question, I would say that it's not true. Based on basically when you look at around you, I mean, science-based evidence that climate change has already impacted extreme weather patterns, and we're already feeling it globally among all the countries. And in fact, I would say that climate change is one of the biggest challenges that's facing humanity in the 21st century, and definitely requires a global concerted effort among all the stakeholders, be it governments, organizations, and consumers, to come together to mitigate this climate risk. And in fact, if you look at the recent report by the United Nations IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, they just released a report this month, which says that the world is actually heading towards the target of 1.5 degrees above pre-industry levels, which is quite alarming. That is coming within the next 2 decades, and only a drastic cut in carbon emissions will avoid environmental disaster. So I think that message is actually quite doom and gloom. But I think on the other hand, we also give an opportunity for organizations to start embracing this challenge with very strong climate leadership, and of course charting a business forward on a more sustainable path for future generations.
Excellent, thank you. And I guess just to tackle the whole, sort of, sometimes you see things in the media about like greenwashing and is offsetting worth doing. Should we just stop flying? How do you deal with that sort of?
So of course, this is a travel event, and I'm not encouraging everyone to stop flying. So
we just did that. It wasn't fun.
So basically, we see that with globalization, as with the whole world moving on from this pandemic, definitely we need to travel. But of course, we need to travel responsibly, and of course, implementing, for example, understanding of footprint, offsetting emissions, and employing more green technologies, for example, like sustainable aviation fuels or fly with renewable fuel like with rescue. So basically, these are kind of the different steps that we can do rather than just purely stop flying. So I think there's a very a lot of ways that we can do even for a very small action from individuals can actually make a big contribution overall to the equation.
That's excellent, and that actually aligns a lot of how we have been, I guess, talking about sustainability as well, like in the travel space. It's obviously a touchy subject because we all run travel programs. If we're going to completely stop traveling, I think the thing that COVID has taught us is that there's definitely an element of business that is done better in person. There's definitely parts of the business that can be done remotely as well. And I've seen a lot of travel policies that talk about travel with purpose, meaningful travel. But I totally agree with what you just said. Like a lot of companies now are going, what's essential travel, what's non-essential travel? To your point, so we're not going to totally stop flying, but what should we do, and what can we do in an alternative way? Then what suppliers can we look at as a second step, as far as impact goes? Like you said, you can choose to fly or rail if you've got the possibility in Europe or certain markets. And then the traveller themselves, what can they do? I've noticed just relocated, so I'm in a hotel at the moment, and I kind of just forgot about the little things like I'm leaving the hotel for 10 hours to like leave the air conditioning on or turn it off. It can be simple things like that, and I think in a travel policy, that's what we need to start to talk about to companies. It's not just a big corporate decision; it's the traveller themselves, right?
Yeah, interestingly, within Southport, of course, we have a travel policy, and recently I just went for a meeting in Berlin, and my colleagues were coming from Amsterdam. So the travel policy within the company states that if you are able to take a wheel, you are not able to fly. So I think these are some of the nuances where we can put into the travel policy that will actually help to create a more sustainable future.
Absolutely, and then I guess at the end of that sort of pyramid, whichever way you look at it, you've got the trips that have to be done, right? And that's where the offsetting comes in. And that's why sometimes people will say, if you offset, that's not a comprehensive thing. And I wouldn't argue with that, because it's not like you just want to offset. This is part of a bigger plan to reduce travel where you can, but there's going to be travel that is essential that you have to do. And if you don't offset that, then you're going to find it hard to hit a net zero.
Exactly. This is actually what we actually advocate as well.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that's really good. And what I wanted to do, guys, is just give you a little bit of time to talk amongst yourselves and get a little bit of understanding of what other companies are doing at your table. So what we might do is just spend the next 5 minutes. I just want to ask everyone this question, and if the FCM people can help sort of facilitate this, just go around the table and just get an understanding of what does your company have as a sustainability commitment. And if you don't have any, that's fine. Just say, I don't know, or we don't know yet. So that's the first question. And then the second question is, what would you like to see? So if you just go around the table first, and if the FCM guys can just help out also. What do you guys have to know about targets? Targets. And then the second one, what would you like to see done in your company? So, all right, we'll do that. Next 5 minutes, guys. Talk amongst yourselves. We'll turn some music on, and we'll give you our hit. That's okay. All right, so go for it, guys.
We might mosey on down to some tables and get some insight into what's happening, because we're getting up to the break. We can keep going in the break. Table number 2. Sorry, guys, to interrupt. Andrew, I'm going to pick on you.
Well, we were deep in conversation. I think there's lots of different approaches. I think we first talked about commitments. Everyone's still talking about it. Okay. Yeah. First we started talking about commitments. So Luke from.
Sorry, guys. We're just going to go around to some tables and get some response. We will continue this conversation during our break. Trust me. All right, Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, so we started really talking about commitments. So Luke started talking about the commitments in WPP, whereby they want to look for net zero emissions by 2025 for direct operations, and which is quite ambitious. Some raised eyebrows there. And then net zero by 2030 for the whole business operation, whole business, right? But then we started talking about how that can happen as well. And then Adriana was talking about the direction of
it's like karaoke.
Well, I'm still working with I try to understand, because now United Airlines and Delta Airlines, they have this program where with the reduction the CO2 emission net zero kind of program, where they approach the corporations or their clients to be part of it, where we contribute an X amount of dollars, and then we would be given a priority seats, but also that in aggregate to their fuel consumption. So I'm still trying to understand the whole concept, but we already started having that conversation with Delta Airlines and United.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I think there's so many different ways to approach this as well. And
Yes, that's one of those because for Autodesk, it's about 13% contribution to the CO2
your travel program
for
is
our so
13.
very
Yeah.
very small as compared to our other business units. So
Yeah.
we work with our suppliers in how to reduce that CO2 consumption. It could be from furniture, from facilities, or real estate, probably as well.
Yeah.
In terms of energy that we use. So it's still like a big conversation. And there was my boss asked me one time, like, okay, if I and you, we are traveling together and I will fly on business class and you fly on economy. So how do you calculate that CO2?
Yeah. I know there's a cost as well, is that you've got the environmental
to
cost, then you've got
offset,
the
yes.
business cost, and then you've got the cost to offset as well. Like it
Yes.
costs money to offset,
To offset, yeah.
but you might reduce travel overall, which will save you money. So it's like you said, it's
How
an
to
ongoing.
calculate that?
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
tough.
and how about the hotels? We work with hotels, our preferred hotels with the green kind of logo, you know. So how are we going to put it in the report that is more accurate than anything? You know, because right now, I don't know how many companies actually that would have the formula to calculate that carbon emission.
Excellent.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Okay, that's just a fact. There's a lot to do and a lot to work out, and there's so many methodologies as well. That's the thing. One thing that Global Sustainability Tourism course told us in the air and the hotel. You know, there are a lot of ways to cut this. So thank you. All right, we might go over to table number 1. Steph, what did you guys talk about?
Hi. We started to talk about how I think the companies at this table are kind of in the infancy, and the focus here is more on the supply chain and the sourcing aspect, and working with partners that are in focusing on sustainability.
Okay, cool. And that's we've got one more table we can do with the time, but the supply chain, it definitely goes back to that. Like, are you signing up with a supplier that has a commitment to sustainability or not? And to be honest, like that's pushed us in a really good direction at Flight Centre to do something as well. So, thank you. We'll go up to table number 5. I think you guys look like you had a bit of a lively discussion. There you go. What did you guys talk about?
Right. So it spoke mainly about what each company is doing. So of course there's facilities and services management. And I think there's a big interest and discussion around how clients, or how, you know, Cindy in this case is looking for like a one-stop solution in terms of offsetting and reporting. So it's all integrated. And that's something that we can provide everybody.
Excellent. All right. Well, it's probably something that we could talk about for the rest of the day. But what we'll do is we will finish it up there, and I'll just give this because Brayden, you're going to hang around for the break, and do you want to just introduce your colleague as well?
Yep. So my colleague Joanne, she's just wave. She's also from South Pole, and then if you have any questions, like for example, on methodology, or you know, how do you decarbonize the supply chain, I think we'll be hanging around to answer, and then of course we can engage more post this event as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Brayden. Clap for Brayden. Thank you for the
Thank you,
insight.